Good Friday afternoon, evening, or Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It could happen.
One of those.
Could happen. Australia could be awake at this point. It's not that late. Or that early, I should say.
You think
Maybe
that they're
it is.
awake?
I don't know. I know
I
one
thought
of
that
them
they
are.
sleep all the time.
It's all the Vegemite that they eat. I think that's what it is. Hi, by the way, my name is Darren Pope. This over here is Victor Farsick at a undisclosed location that we've been at before.
Secret location, yes.
It's a secret location. At some point in my lifetime, I need to see that secret location in real life.
You just need to come to Spain. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. And we do a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do DevOps Paradox Live, which is this show. And we talk about the news of the week here. And speaking of strange things, I saw a plane took off from Rome yesterday and had to land in Madrid because of mechanical issues that was headed to my town. So, how would you like
They
to get on a plane?
discovered technical issues on top of Europe instead of Atlantic. So,
No, they were over the Atlantic.
oh really?
And they had to come back, yeah. So there were basically 2.5 hours out and 2.5 hours back. So they were over the Atlantic. So they made it. All good. We're not talking about that kind of news today, thankfully. By the way, if you have your drink, get your drink. And I'm going to enjoy my drink here for just a moment. Because I did a thing. Or I didn't do a thing. Somebody else did a thing.
What's the thing?
This thing. This thing.
Ah, amigo.
If I can get it.
No, you
come
cannot
on.
get it.
There it goes.
Ah, there we go.
It's hard to see. But
Continuous enthusiast.
yes.
That's good.
Yes, so that's from the CD Foundation. I won this was the first year for this award, and I won it. So that was very cool. I got nominated for it thanks to a lot of people in the Jenkins community, and this is very cool. And I'll tell you what, if I was to drop this, I would break my foot.
How do you know? Did you try it?
No, but here.
Yeah, I didn't trust until you experiment. Do experiment right now. Let's see.
Here, I can do an experiment. Let's see. Not a good experiment. Doesn't matter. Okay. So anyway, Sebastian, good to see you. Karen,
Hey.
casual. It's always Casual Friday with that. Karen, thanks. I appreciate it. Sebastian, thanks as well. It's always. Now, so that was one announcement this week. Another announcement that happened this week for this channel, specifically the YouTube channel, is we were able to turn on monetization. Which means now, unfortunately, you're going to see ads. But I can tell you, I looked at the report this morning, so it appears to be, and you've had monetization on for your channel a lot longer.
Yes.
Is it so? You see the amount of money from the day before, right? Obviously, it's not real time. So
you don't see the last 2 days.
Last 2 days. Okay.
Yes.
So as of this morning, my time, $1.30. Thank you. Good night. It's funny. Hey, 50 cents a day? I can go to Taco Bell and get tacos on the weekend.
No, I mean, look, 50 cents a day, that's what, like $280 a year?
Yeah.
100 years, that's new MacBook.
I knew you were going to say that. I was wondering when it was going to show up. So I was talking to Victor this week, and Amazon had a deal going on to where they had $100 off or $99 off a Mac Mini, base Mac Mini, 8 meg, 256 gig of RAM. I'm sorry, 8 meg, 8 gig of RAM, 256 gig hard drive. And I had it in the cart. And I was almost going to click buy. And instead I clicked delete.
Yeah, I almost bought the helicopter one day.
Yeah, Sebastian, you're right. So super chats, all the anything with monetization now on this channel is all available. So, and we're not going to push anybody for that. I mean, it's great, but great and thank you. But if not, that's fine too.
Wait, I mean, we need to reduce your MacBook arrival from 100 to at least 30 years.
So here's what I am doing. So all right. So M2's here. So this is what I've thought about the M1, and I'm still leaning towards getting that base M1 Mac Air, or excuse me, Mac Mini, just because I need something for studio, and I don't need a ton of power, but I need reasonable power. So for $600 US, that's okay. That's a good price. It's under $1,000, right? I'm still, because of an impending move potentially, $600 is a lot of money. So that's the reason why I'm hesitant in doing anything until we get a little bit more, as long as I can make it work, I'm going to make it work. But at some point, it's not going to keep working. I know that. But the M2, I like it. I spec'd out, did we talk about, was WWDC, that was this week.
Yeah.
So I did a full spec on the M2 Mac Air. Not the MacBook Pro, but the Mac Air. And full spec with 24 gig of RAM and, what was it, 2 terabytes?
You don't need that, but okay.
No, I know. But, but I know I don't need it, but I'll explain why. It's like $2,000 or just over $2,000, which is a lot for a MacBook Air. But the reason why I would consider maxing out the disk is because of the pipeline between the CPU and disk. It would be a lot faster. So that's the only reason I would want to have as much disks as possible, as much size locally as possible. I know I don't need it, but if that's going to become my daily driver, it would be nice, especially with as much video that you're wanting me to start doing, which we'll talk more about later. Got my new company Mac. They updated me from a bad keyboard to a MacBook 19. That's nice. That's great. And you're still within the time to where you can run Ventura on it if it ever shows up.
I don't know. I got so used to mechanical keyboards since like 4 months ago that working on a laptop is pure suffering. I must say that.
Mechanical keyboard.
Yeah, that's one thing that you have older than your laptop.
It is. I got this. I can tell you when I got this. I was doing a consulting gig at a large place in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that flies airplanes. That's all I'll say. There's only 2 of them, so you can choose which one it is. And one of the guys knew somebody at Microsoft to where they could get deals, and this is back when you could buy stuff from the Microsoft company store. And I got 2 of these Ergo 4000s. Yeah, these are 4000s. In 2000 or 2001 is when I got it. I can't remember exactly when. It was either at the end of 2000 or at the beginning of 2001. So these keyboards are over 20 years old that I have. And they still work like they're brand new. I love these keyboards. If I ever have to replace it, no, I'll take it back. In the office, I'm using a Mac keyboard because I need to throw it around all the time. Like I need desk space. But for studio, I love this for the studio. Why are we talking about Macs today? Let's talk about real news. Like what happened this week. The podcast this week was with Nicole from K6. K6 was recently-ish acquired by Grafana Labs. And we talked about performance testing with K6. You've done some stuff with K6 before. I've done stuff with K6. When I compare it to Gatling, I love K6. Even though it's JavaScript. I love K6.
I mean, to begin with, what is the alternative? Gatling is Scala, right? Are you going to do Scala? And if I remember right, Scala and then it's some weird XML mixed in there for good taste, right?
Yep. Nah. So anyway, yes. Now K6, I believe, is the right answer for any kind of load testing. And it's cool. And they have a cloud. But we talked obviously about the K6, the company, but it was good talking to Nicole and talking about how she grew up through testing and knew about Load Runner and all the software that I had forgotten about. I put it out of my mind. It's sort of like Fortran. I try to keep that out of my mind as much as possible. Even though it showed back up today, I was looking at some source code that it was Fortran source. Oh, well. So that's the podcast. Comes out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern. Next week, I don't even remember what it is because it's been done for a few weeks, thankfully. And let's talk about something that was a little more strange, I think. So the Kubernetes annual report was put out last week by the CNCF. And they go through all the different things that happened this past year. They've got a big, long legend at the top. Go through all the things. So here it is. 62,000 contributors all time to Kubernetes. That is a repository at scale, I think.
And then somebody asked me, why don't I use Nomad or something like that?
Because?
I mean, kind of like you cannot really beat that manpower.
Yeah. 10,000 new contributors this year alone. One new SIG, converted from a working group. Okay. One new working group, which they go into. 5 new chairs and tech leads. 10 or less unique reviewers in 8 groups. Roughly 8 average active meeting participants in each group. That's pretty good. And then around 70,000 Slack members. Have you ever been into the Kubernetes Slack workspace? I know you have been.
That's strange.
You think it's that low? Or does it feel
So,
low?
kind of like, let's assume for a second that every contributor is in Slack. That means that almost all Slack members are contributors.
Why else would you want to go into the Slack workspace if you're not a contributor?
Okay, yeah, SIG. Okay, true. Fair enough. You're right.
Right? In this case, I think. This is a super long report. I'm thankful I didn't have to write it. I'll put it that way. They go in through all the things, but there were some sections here about how they broke it down. And I want to get down to one thing in specific. And I know it hasn't affected any of us, but the topic of burnout. So it says, the topics of burnout and workload management are frequent in the leads and group meetings. We go through all these things, but here's what they did this year within the community. Reduce the release cadence. So we went from 4 to 3. I think that's reasonable. I even think they could go. I think they
reduce
could go
the scope.
to 2, or reduce the scope. Which do you think is better? Stay at 4 and reduce the scope, or 3 and a little bit bigger?
I like 4.
Okay. Are you opposed to 3?
No, it's not that I'm opposed. I just.
Would you be opposed to 2?
I would. I mean, I more frequent. So I like when things are released frequently, without going crazy. So if somebody would say every week we have a release or multiple releases a day of public software, not to your production. That's a separate thing. I like releasing to production multiple times a day, but for something that is public software, I would say that less than quarterly is not fast enough for me. Meaning that you're just accumulating too much stuff, right? Instead of getting feedback quickly.
And they were talking more about how to deal with it. And they're also introducing emeritus, why it's okay to take breaks. This is something I can't do, is take a break. At some point, I'm going to learn how to.
Yeah, so it's not that you cannot do it. You're just not doing it.
I just don't do it.
That's different.
The other thing that was interesting here was the 9 to 5 contributor is almost over and we have to adjust. And I thought this one was really interesting. And I think part of this is loosely coupled to the burnout item. Only a handful of the owners will tell you they work 80 to 100% on upstream. But the number of very experienced and very active core folks has decreased in recent years. That follows fairly normal open source delivery, I think. Somebody's hot for it for a number of years, short number of years, and then they're moving on to the next big thing. Is it because that project has become too brownfield for them? Could be part of it, right?
I think that there is less and less interest in companies to go directly and contribute to Kubernetes. Because now we're in a phase of building stuff on top of Kubernetes. So I think that most of the companies are focused above Kubernetes, and then they will send people to contribute back when there is something inside Kubernetes that affects negatively their plans that are on top of it, right? Simply, it's more mature, so that there are less of the things that companies really need to make their stuff work.
Yeah. And these 3 questions are questions that I've seen in other communities. How can we incentivize growth in this area of sustainers? How can we surface the areas of risk? And is there anything else we can do in the short term? I can answer this last one. No, there's nothing you can do. Because if you were to take somebody fresh out of college and put them as a core committer on Kubernetes, it's 6 months before they're useful. Not useful. Competent. I'll say it that way.
I mean, there is something that it can be done.
Docs?
No.
Okay.
Cloud Native Foundation financing full-time contributions.
Okay.
And
Go deeper on that, because I think I know where you're heading from based on
so a lot
other
of money is
conversations.
pouring into Cloud Native Foundation, a lot. And if we have problem that we don't have enough contributors, that people are burned out because they work on Kubernetes in their spare time, and so on and so forth. And why not just enable people to work full-time? Not everybody, of course, but increase the number of full-time Kubernetes contributors directly employed by CNCF.
You're applying logic to the situation.
I mean, I would have a hard time believing that money is an issue, that kind of not enough funds are pouring into the foundation. I would go as far as to say maybe too much funds are pouring in.
We should do a podcast about that. That would get us probably in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And this is also interesting too. This reporting process and its summary. This process takes us 6 months to write this report. This is not sustainable and not helpful. Okay. I'm not going to get into details here, but whatever. And then it gets into help wanted in each of the SIGs. So this, I mean, if you're at all interested or are using anything from the CNCF, I would say take a look at this and understand, see if there's any place you can help out. Right? Even if it's help me clean up some docs. I mean, that's always a good place to start. So that is the 2021 annual report for Kubernetes. What do you think, Victor? Is it here to stay?
Well, next 20, 30 years, yes, then we'll see.
30 years. I will be...
You will be buying your Mac. That's what you will be.
That's what I'll be doing, yeah. At that point, the house should be paid off. And then the Mac will probably... But with inflation, the Mac will be the cost of a house. We're going to go back to mainframe pricing on the Macs, I think. What is not going to cost me an arm and a leg is Kyverno 1.7. And this came out last week, I believe. Yeah, it was last week again. And they announced mutation and generation for existing resources, which they said was the most requested feature. And you and I were talking about this before we started. And again, I haven't used Kyverno. You have. What we think it is they're able to apply the policies to anything that already existed before Kyverno. Is that the way you're understanding it too?
Not before Kyverno. It's kind of... Typically, you have admission controllers that can validate something, reject something, and you have mutators there that can change the spec of a resource before being applied. And that's happening when you send a request to Kube API to apply something, right?
Okay, right.
So if you want to change a policy, change the mutator, that will affect only those that are coming after the change.
Got it.
Right? And now you can actually apply mutation to the stuff that is already running in a cluster. So yeah, that's big. That's huge.
Okay. And there were also a few other announcements along with that: better GitOps support, enhanced supply chain security with image verification. I believe this was using Cosign under the hood. If not, it should be. And then also Helm installation to make that easier.
Nice.
So
It's to be honest, I like a year ago or something like that. I made it very clear that I love Kyverno, but I had no idea that it will get this far. I see it everywhere. I thought it's going to have huge issues to penetrate, kind of, especially to fight against OPA. It's doing it exceptionally well. I'm impressed of the adoption.
And we've talked about this: is OPA will cover everything. Kyverno only covers Kubernetes. So if you're only concerned about covering policies for Kubernetes and nothing else, then Kyverno might be your better selection over OPA. Not saying it will be, but it's scoped a lot tighter.
Yeah.
And Sebastian's saying, like, replacing an image tag with a digest. I would imagine that's probably what you can do with it.
For example, add labels, put mandatory, put default requests and limits, or anything, right?
Yeah. Well, now that I've actually patched this machine to where I can run Rancher Desktop, I need to actually spin it up and test it out. I know that much. In all my spare time. A couple of things from Google this week. One is if you're using Google Cloud Run, you can now set Session Affinity. I know why you want to do this, but why do you want to do this? Again,
Are we now talking about
this is
stateful apps?
Yep. By default, Session Affinity is not enabled. So if you had multiple instances running, you could get routed to a different one.
And
right?
you will.
And more than likely you would. But whereas now, if you set the sticky bit, if it's there, you're going to go back. Now, if for some reason it's not there, you still get routed over somewhere else. They were talking about the example, or this was in that really long Twitter thread that was opened by Starin back in 2019 about Cloud Run. And it was talking about the use case for this is if you have caches that you want people to be able to hit locally. And if you don't have a cache, you don't need this. And if you're caching, you probably should come up with a different way, and you should be using some sort of distributed cache instead of a specific local cache, I think.
Like Redis, right? Or something like
well,
that.
Redis.
Because cache already makes it stateful, right?
Yes.
Even if it's cache.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the purpose of this. And this is preview at this point, or pre-GA, the way they say it. One more thing from Google Cloud this week was policy guardrails for Terraform on Google Cloud CLI. And it's in preview, which I actually just installed the new version of Google Cloud CLI about an hour ago. So I haven't tried this yet. So what they're doing is there's a gcloud beta Terraform vet. Not doctor, but vet. Client-side tool, blah, blah, blah. It enables policy validation for your infrastructure deployments and existing infrastructure pipelines. With this release, you can now write policies on any resource from Terraform's Google and Google beta providers. I guess they just want to be able to have the policy. So here's a pipe, if you will. So before you get to, you run plan, and in the middle of that, you say, now run the vet. And if the vet passes, then you apply. Otherwise, you fail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's interesting that they're rolling it into their CLI.
It's strange that that's not kind of part of Terraform, to be honest.
There should be a policy library or policy handler in Terraform.
And then one implementation or first implementation, Google Cloud, why not, right?
Yeah. Maybe this was their way to get it out faster. I don't know.
Maybe.
So there's the basics of doing it. So if you're using Google Cloud and you're using Terraform And you need to say, why do people keep doing this? They shouldn't be allowed to do this. Well, now you have a way to not allow them to do it? Not allow them to do it? I don't know. So that's that. Okay. Another project from Sigstore. I thought this was interesting. Gitsign. Are you ready for this?
Okay, I'm curious.
Okay. So you're familiar with cosign.
Of course.
And it didn't hit me until today what cosign really stands for. Even though it does more than just what it says. What do you think cosign stands for? Well, look here at Gitsign.
I don't know. Container object sign.
Or just container sign would be my guess.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but we're going to make it up and say it is for now. Because cosign isn't just for containers. It's for any file. It doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly.
So, let's go back to that Terraform real quick. But can this replace poorly constructed custom modules? No. Number one, it only works with the Google and Google Beta modules. But anyway. So now you can do Gitsign. You have the best of Sigstore to Git with keyless signing and transparency log support. So anyway, let's look at what the example is. So what they do, here we go. So you have to install it. Okay, it says go install. I mean, think about it. All the people at Sigstore, they're Go developers. I'm sure there's a binary here. I'm not too concerned about it. But then you set up your Git config. You set up your GPG format. Tell it what program to use. And then if you're going to sign it all. So in this case, it's signing all commits. So then when you commit, you get a signed commit, or that's the signed commit for that. And when you verify that commit, then you get all of this stuff.
And it's keyless.
It's keyless.
That's brilliant. I hate keys. Keys are evil.
Yep.
Nice.
Gitsign is leveraging the same ephemeral certificate flow as cosign.
Nice.
So the way I'm looking at this is there's zero reason why I should not do this, because this is, we've talked about the whole Sigstore with cosign and everything else. Even if I sign my container, but all of the binaries that are in the container aren't signed, what good is that? This goes even further left, so the commit before a binary is even built, that would be included in a container. So now, in theory, if everything that's in your container that you sign with cosign is fully signed, so each of the binaries, and then within the binaries, you could track back to the commit where it was signed. Then you got something to talk about.
And it's one-time setup, right? You set it up and you're fine until
You're
the next time until 30 years from now you buy a MacBook. I will stay on that forever, man.
What is going to be the new operating system in 30 years? At that point, I'll be 86. So that's a good question. I don't know. But anyway, Gitsign is now available. And let's see here. GitHub had a couple of announcements this week. They actually had a lot of announcements this week, but this is one of them that I thought was interesting. They announced Github Skills. So if you're not a GitHub user, let's say you've been using Bitbucket or GitLab or anything else, I'm not going to single out any of them, and you're having to move to GitHub. A lot of stuff is going to be normal, but if you're going into GitHub for real, you want to understand how to use GitHub. Like if you're going to ditch Jira for GitHub issues. And if you're going to ditch whatever else for something else in GitHub. Well, now, GitHub Skills are here. It's backed by GitHub Actions. And it helps you understand how to use GitHub. So you can even do something for GitHub pages. So it's just a different way of doing training for GitHub.
Nice.
I haven't signed up for anything yet. It's free up until you use... So this would be a thing is if you're going to use all the skills courses, you're fine. But if you want to use it in a private repository, it's free until you burn all your minutes. Mm-hmm. And then they're getting rid of Learning Lab on September 1st. I never even knew they had Learning Lab. So Learning Lab, though, going away September 1st, but there's something else being removed in GitHub land. I didn't think I would ever see this happen. Are you ready for this?
Have my attention. What is it?
Atom is going away.
Wait. What? Remind me. Is it that editor, right?
Yep. Atom
Okay.
was the first project to use Electron, if I remember correctly.
Okay. I'm not surprised that it's going away. I'm surprised that it's not gone already a long time ago. I don't remember last time I heard anybody mentioning Atom.
I know 3 people right now that use Atom as their daily editor.
Okay. My apologies to all 3 of them.
So again, Atom existed before GitHub was purchased by Microsoft. So now, between VS Code and GitHub Codespaces, Atom should be killed. So it is. It is going to be all archived as of December 15th. They're archived, but if you want to use it, I guess you can keep using it. Don't know why you would want to, but you could.
I'm guessing that won't be a big change for existing users, because I'm guessing that existing users are not getting updates for a while now, probably. Significant, at least, no?
Yeah, that's, as far as I know, there has not been a lot of development towards Atom.
Everything stays the same.
Yeah, and Seth calls it right here. After Microsoft, it was coming. Yeah, I agree. There was no reason for him to keep it. And I think that's part of it, but then once they actually launched Codespaces, I think Codespaces was even more important than VS Code or even the acquisition. Because if GitHub was not acquired and they still brought Codespaces to market, I mean, I could see why somebody would still want a local editor, but it would behoove GitHub to always have it in browser anyway.
So, but kind of that combination is becoming my favorite, to be honest. I always my main issue with remote dev environments was always IDE. I cannot get I really, really want to, but I cannot get used to IDE in a browser. So I kind of like Codespaces because it gives me, hey, use your own Visual Studio Code if you want to, and then you get everything else remote. That's nice.
Yeah. So that's Atom. Alas, poor Atom, we knew him well. I saw a repo this week. There weren't that many tools this week. In fact, there were none that I saw. But I did see this best practice document from HexOps. Mm-hmm. Yet another ops. Best practices for Dockerfiles. It was nice just to have this all in one place.
Yeah.
Most of these I knew. Run as a non-root user. There's no reason a container needs to run as root. None. Don't use now this one I thought was interesting. Don't use a UID below 10,000. Okay. Now I know because I've seen them. I knew I didn't want it below 1,000 or below 1024, but now it's 10,000. Okay. Use a static UID and GID. Okay. Do not use latest. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't that be number one? Well, non-root really should be number one. But then it says use Tinny as your entry point. I thought this one was interesting. You know what Tinny is, right?
My brain stopped. I know that I've been using Tinny like crazy, and then at some moment I stopped using it. I don't remember anymore
Why?
What it is or why.
A tiny but valid init for containers. Now here's my problem with Tinny. It hasn't been touched in over 2 years.
Brilliant. And can you remind me why Tinny, what does it do?
All Tinny does is spawn a single child process and waits for it to exit while reaping all the zombies and doing all the things. It's just an init process.
Okay.
That's all it does.
Yeah. I've been using distroless images with a single binary in them, so...
Yeah. That's probably where you should go if you can. Only store arguments in CMD, and then install bind tools if you care about DNS resolution. But besides that, I thought this is a pretty good, just a quick list. I don't think it's comprehensive, but you probably need to at least do these, or at least I would say at least the top 4. I think if you do the top 4, you're going to be in better shape than not doing the other things. Who is this? HaloLint also has a good rule set. Okay. Let's see. Am I going to do this live? Please don't steer me wrong. Okay, here we go. Ooh, Haskell. Oh dear. The Haskell Dockerfile linter. A smarter Dockerfile linter that helps you build best practice document. Oh, this is interesting. So it lints right in. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but that's closer to what I'm looking for, right? Instead of rules, we need some kind of policies. Kind of, hey, I'm going to run this whenever image is built, and if we agree that you cannot do this, then you will not be able to do that, and that's it.
Yeah. From Sebastian, I just had to use Tinny because a process spawned child process. I could not kill it by killing the parent. Right. Yeah.
But that's kind of like, in situations where you simply have to do that. Ideal situation is that container image contains one process, period. And then all that is kind of irrelevant. But that's not the reality always. So in those cases, it makes sense.
Okay. So that was that. Where was it? Oh, one more thing here. We did Tinny. Okay. So I've been on this Appbuilder thing. I've talked about it the past couple of weeks. And they did actually 2 releases this week. But the latest release added in the ability to help support cheat sheets. I've never heard of cheat before. Have you ever heard of cheat?
No, this looks cool. So just kind of pass the name of the binary, right?
Well, okay. So what Appbuilder is doing is supporting the cheat syntax. But I'd never even heard of cheat. So what cheat is...
Me neither.
Okay, last release, 2021, 4.2. 36 releases. Okay, we're going to do our normal thing here. I'm going to click into it just because I feel like a doofus. Don't say it out loud. I don't need more help in reinforcing that I'm a doofus today. Let's see. Highly active. Holy cow. Okay, we're still scrolling. Okay, version 2.0 is back in 2014. Okay, first release appears to be 2.0.1, 8 years ago. So what cheat does, how did we not know about this? Allows you to create and view interactive cheat sheets on the command line. It was designed to help and remind Unix, system administrators of options for commands they use frequently, but not frequently enough to remember. Genius. Oh, they even have an XKCD. So anyway, here's the example. I can say cheat tar, so I know I need to use tar. But you can't always remember what the direction is or the position of arguments need to be. Like for me, the one that's always hardest is doing a symlink. Like, does the hard link go on the left or does it go on the right? I can never...
I always had the same problem with LN.
Yeah.
But now that I guess that half of the population is using ZSH, right? With autocomplete and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So kind of, I would have loved this years ago. Now kind of like it's just, you start typing tar and you get the last command you executed, or
as long as your history doesn't get flushed each time you get a new shell.
Oh yeah, then you're screwed.
Yeah. So if I say cheat tar, then you get something that looks like this. Right? So this is cheat. Now, going back to here, what I do in my definition, which I haven't rolled it into my example yet, I would define cheat of what I want it to say. So within this demo, I have a whole cheat block, and then I can say what to do with it. This thing's getting cooler by the day, I have to admit. Even though it does a lot of strange things, it's very cool. And you can also integrate cheat with it within Appbuilder, which gets a little strange. So anyway, that was the new thing to to Appbuilder this week. So not only did I learn about cheat sheets, learn more about Appbuilder, I learned about cheat. And again, how do we not know about this? But you have to configure it. You have to give it so from a cheat perspective, you have to give it a YAML. Okay, well, whatever.
That sucks.
Well, you got to do something, right? I mean,
Yeah, I thought it would be getting it from, I don't know where. Actually,
somewhere.
when I think
Yeah.
about it, yeah.
Well, actually, wait. Advanced usage. Let's see. Oh, shell auto completion. Sorry. I thought you could do some weird stuff there, but you can't. Anyway, cheat. This week's video about container images without using Dockerfiles, even though we talked about Dockerfiles a lot here at the end.
Yeah, it's about Buildpacks and kpack and Paketo. So those three combined, and then a bit of your own, creating your own Buildpacks gives something potentially good. I'm still not convinced that we should switch away from Dockerfile to this, even though actually Buildpacks are older than Dockerfile. But it's a good alternative, kind of like, hey, here's my code, build it.
Buildpacks have been around since
Heroku.
They
Yeah,
were the ones that
Heroku came up.
introduced it. Yeah.
Exactly. Heroku, and then version 1, version 2. I think that there were two versions 2, one by Heroku, another one by Pivotal folks. And now we have cloud native Buildpacks, which is basically version 3 in a way that is combined again. And yes, set CloudFormation use. Sorry, not CloudFormation, the
Cloud Foundry.
Cloud Foundry use. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pivotal part.
Let's talk about this. Is it not giving up too much control with Buildpacks? My answer is no.
No.
Why do I care about controlling how something is built?
No, but the thing is that, so you can think of it as two ways, right? Buildpacks is a way for you to use somebody else's build or whatever it's called, packs, public domain, open source Paketo, but you can create your own. So you can think of it as in your company creating Dockerfile that everybody can use. Specification how to build certain type of images. So create your own packs, and that's about it. Then you're not giving any control to anybody.
There you are.
There I am.
It's not too hard to build a build pack.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
I mean, it's no different than. I guess the analog is if you built a kitchen sink image that has all your tools in it. The one next step would be having the command built in to do the build.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty much it. It's just an opinionated builder, and really. There's a lot of different places that use that metaphor anyway. I think when people fear giving up control, I would start rethinking some life choices.
I mean, you're giving control to Docker, you're giving control to your distribution of Linux, you're giving control to many, to Apple.
Yeah, for real. And then Seth calls it out here. It's a great option for teams that don't understand Dockerfile creation or any kind of creation. I mean, if I'm trying to take a Spring Boot project and turn it into a container image, or a Spring Boot project and turn it into a fat jar that's runnable, if I have a build pack for that, it doesn't matter. I just select the build pack I want to do. It sort of sounds like a GitHub action, doesn't it? I mean,
it's a good thing.
Yeah. Imagine people not being control freaks. That's not possible. We're humans. That's not going to change. What else is going on? That's actually all the news for this week. That's all that I could find. There was other things. I mean, WWDC stole a lot of thunder this week, I think. It was sort of depressing.
I didn't watch it. Was it anything beyond the widgets on a home screen of iPhones and iMac and Pro machine that they mentioned in 3 seconds? That's my understanding, right?
There was no Pro machine.
No, some MacBook, something.
Oh, the MacBook Pro, yeah.
Yeah.
Along with the MacBook Air and M2 MacBook Pro, but that was
but kind of like not gonna talk about it.
No. That's fine. So next week, you've got a video on Monday. We've got a podcast.
Yes.
We've got the podcast on Wednesday. Do we have a...
Oh, we have AMA on Thursday, yes.
Is it next week? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So
every second week when we're not traveling.
Right. So then that's... over on the DevOps Toolkit channel.
Yes.
And then we'll be back here again next Friday on the DevOps Paradox channel. I guess I need to actually get some work done.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see Patrick got a new job?
Yeah, I did not catch what's the title. And no, he's not a new job. He's working alone, right? Freelancer stuff. No?
He is going to be a distinguished engineer, whatever that title means,
Okay.
at some shop in Belgium, like where he can ride his bike to work level.
Okay.
So
Okay. Nice.
he's really excited about it. If
Nice.
you don't know who we're talking about Patrick Dubois, the godfather
Father
of
of
DevOps.
DevOps. Yeah.
And he's just a friend. He shows up on the podcast on the Divide by 50 episodes. So he'll be around at 200 again, which will be about next March.
Of all the celebrities in our industry, he's probably the one with low, kind of like doing low profile. Not really
Yeah, he's
kind of be exposing himself much.
he's very low key.
Yeah.
He just head down, moving forward type stuff. So congratulations, Patrick. Not that you'll watch this because you won't, but that's okay. We can still say congratulations, right? Yeah, of course. Are you recovered from KubeCon yet? That's been now 3 weeks. Do you feel like
Yeah, no, fine. I'm waiting for one more week at home and then travel again.
how you had 2 events this week, right? They were remote, but there were
I had 4 talks this week.
4 talks.
5 talks this week.
Do you remember any of them?
I made a record yesterday. No, was it yesterday? Yesterday, yes. It was my personal record. 4 talks in a day.
In one day?
Yes, I mean 2 recorded with live Q&A and 2 lives. So let's say that counts as 3.
And we attempted to record a podcast yesterday too. So let's add that.
Oh yeah,
mix
we
in.
almost recorded a podcast. Yeah.
We had a problem with a guest losing internet. Usually it's me that loses internet, but he lost internet, so we got him rescheduled. But it was just interesting. It wasn't me causing the problem this time. Okay. Anyway, let's call it a day because this week has gone slow, but today has flown by. And I still have to figure out, hey, let me ask you a question because you may know the
Okay.
answer to this.
Go.
So I was trying to set up something with Google Cloud Run today.
Okay.
And I'm trying to create a service.
Okay.
But when I hover over create service, it says you can't do this because you can't do it with domains. I can't remember the exact thing. I'll send it to you later. I don't remember what it is.
Send me a screenshot or something.
I'll do that. But it was strange because it says basically you cannot create anything with Google Cloud Run when. Here, hang on a second. Talk amongst
I
yourselves.
mean, they either give it a domain themselves or you choose a domain of your own, but then that domain needs to be, I think, registered through Google.
And that's probably what it is for me because I have my domain associated with the account, but it's not registered through Google.
Yeah, I think
that's
that there is a
probably what it
way
is.
not to register to Google with Google, but to tell Google that kind of like it should use it, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
But when I searched for the back half of the phrase, figuring that the token Cloud Run at the beginning was just a replacement token, I couldn't figure out how to make it.
But you know, if you have your own domain managed by whatever way you're managing it, then let Google create a random domain for you, and then you just change your DNSs to point there.
But I have to create a new org and a new project, right? Or can it stay under the same org?
Google org.
So when I go into my account, I have a no
Account
organization
for what?
at the top.
For Google.
Google, yeah.
Yeah,
Google
you
Cloud.
need a project.
So I create a brand new project that's not associated to the domain. I guess.
I mean, yeah, projects are not associated with domain anyways. So you need a project, any project.
Just any project. Okay. Well, the
Yeah.
project I was trying to put it in, that's when I was getting the message, and then I had to get ready for this, so I've got to try that out. So I'll try.
Just kind of like uncheck the domain thing and it will give it to you.
Okay. That may be enough. Sorry to steal everybody's time talking about my problems, but I figured I've got Victor here. I might as well ask him because he's done that more than I have. So anyway, we'll be back again next Thursday over on DevOps Toolkit.
Yes.
Next Friday, we'll be back here.
Yes.
The DevOps Toolkit is at 11 a.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. CET, unless you
Maybe.
change the time.
Whatever the calendar says.
That's what the calendar currently says.
Then that's what it is.
Great. Well, then let's go ahead and call it a week, and we will talk to everybody again multiple times in multiple ways next week. Everybody have a great weekend.